How's it going, people? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another video on first cars. Today I have the Suzuki Swift 2007 1.3 litre that I've been very kindly lent by a good friend of mine, and I have been driving it around to kind of give you guys a bit of an understanding as to whether or not this is a good first car. So remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that great stuff, and without further ado, let's get into the video.
I just wanna be happy, happy tonight.
So let's start with the absolute basics. How much does this car actually cost? It's around about £1,000 to £2,000 for a generally decent model with around about 60 to 80,000 miles on it. In fact, this one here has 65,000 miles on it and was bought for around about the £1,000 to £1,300 mark, which is pretty decent. For reference, you could probably buy a similar year Polo, Fiesta, Corsa for around about the £800 to £1,500 mark for those kinds of miles. So yes, slightly more expensive, but literally only by a couple of £100. And I really wanted to do a review of this car simply because I wanted to understand why it's that little bit more expensive than its rivals. I mean, if you look at it from over here, it's not that much prettier than I would say a Polo or a Fiesta or whatever. It's a nice clean shape, obviously good sweeping lines and whatever, but it's very simple. It's the kind of car that I think you'd probably draw if you were like, draw a hatchback, you would literally just go like, yep, and then across. So it's not like a stunning first car, but at the same time it's also not a bad looking first car. I mean, it's absolutely fine basically. So let's go over how it looks then. So at the front, yes, you've got the classic plastic grille here at the front, the kind of pointless ones on the sides within the air intake there. I think you can probably swap that bumper out for a Swift Sport one. It would look quite nice. It hasn't got alloys on this model. It has hubcaps over Steelies, and those have been royally wrecked. As you can see, you can guess it's a first car just based on how ruined that all is around there. But I think that hubcaps on a first car is not the end of the world. Both of my first two cars had hubcaps, and that's just how it is sometimes. Coming around here then, it's all very smooth along the side, nothing particularly interesting. And then round the back again, you've got this bumper, which is slightly interesting. You've got these little bits there as if it's got a diffuser, but in reality, again, something that you could maybe swap for a Suzuki Swift Sport bumper. But yes, I'm really struggling to think of anything else that I can really say about how it looks, because it's not a car that's going to set the world on fire. But despite the slightly boring exterior, it's actually the interior of this car that is particularly decent on this. So if we jump inside, you can see that there's plenty of room for the passenger already. Let me jump in and give you a look. So I've got plenty of space here. My feet are all good. I'm around about 6 foot, and these, yeah, I'm fitting in nicely. So yes, this is with the seat in that same position, and I am easily able to fit in the back also as a 6 foot person. So yes, enough space here is what I'm trying to say. I must say though, it has a bit of a rogue seat move forward button, but that's no biggie. However, that space in the rear does very slightly impact the amount of space you get in the boot. So it's not massively sizable in here. If you look at my bag, this is a standard Nike kit bag, and it just about fills up the space in the boot. So yes, that would go in there, but this would be difficult if you're trying to bring lots of luggage and also lots of people. If you didn't have lots of people and you drop the seats forward, plenty of room. My friend who owns this car actually brought all of his university stuff, including a gaming PC and a sim rig setup and a chair and a whole bunch of other stuff, all in the back of this car, obviously with the seats down, and he was the only person in the car, but it can do the job. It isn't a small car, as I've shown you hopefully by some of these perspectives. It's not tiny, it's big enough, and if you fold those seats down, you've got space. But if you've got people and stuff, then yes, not a huge amount of boot space. So swings and roundabouts basically. Nice, happy, comfortable people, but they can't bring anything with them. If we jump inside the driver's side here, you'll see a nice little cockpit area. So yes, all very plasticky as you might expect, but I don't think it needs to be anything else. It's a first car and they generally are quite plasticky. This one comes with volume and stuff on your actual steering wheel, which is also nice, and benefit is that even me with my big palms, it doesn't actually reach this, and sometimes I find in cars my palms actually foul on that, which is quite annoying. One thing that I think lets this car down for me is the fact that it's from 2007 and yet it doesn't have an auxiliary cable or a USB port in order to plug your phone in. My friend has put this in a Bluetooth receiver, which then transmits by FM radio to this, but I used to have one of those and it wasn't very good. I found that over time it got worse and the sound quality wasn't as good as just plugging the phone in, and yeah, Basically, it's a workaround to a problem that Suzuki really shouldn't have even put there in the first place. There's a half decent amount of storage space in the car as well. So you've got this little bit down here, and you've also got these cup holder looking things down there to throw stuff into. And over here, you've got obviously the classic door card storage as well, and obviously a glove compartment that no one ever put gloves in. The seats are relatively comfortable too. They're very simple. There's nothing too special about them. Oh, and yes, my friend has put in a different shifter here. And by the way, it's actually really comfortable to use. It feels like I'm driving a truck. So yes, from an external perspective, all very simple, not a particularly special or interesting car. However, I think it's got potential, and let's take it for a drive, and I think that's where the car really comes into its own. Right, okay, this is the inside of the Suzuki Swift from 2007, and we're just gonna take it for a quick drive so I can show you guys just what it's like to take around on the roads. Now, I've only driven this car for around about 20 minutes so far, and in that time I can already tell you that it's a very decent first car. In terms of the speed, etc., because it's not turbocharged, because it's not a modern era first car style car, I guess, not, it doesn't have to be a first car, but you know what I mean, because it's not a modern era first car, it's actually quite good at getting off the line. It reminds me of my Skoda. My Skoda used to get off the line really quick, and this does too, but the difference is this will get to 60 in around about 12 to 13 seconds, whereas the Skoda would have done it in around about 18 seconds. There you go, 0 to 60 in a pretty decent time there. I'll add a timer on or something, but that got to 60 like it was nothing. It did it super easy, and yeah, I must say it's definitely quicker than my Polo, definitely quicker than the Skoda that I was driving in Switzerland, definitely quicker than my old Skoda. Yeah, like off the line, very decent. That 1.3 engine, that extra 0.1 of a litre, really be giving this car some extra pace. Obviously it's not quick. First cars are generally not quick, and they shouldn't be quick. It's supposed to be something for you to learn in, but I do find it annoying when they're just ridiculously slow or sluggish to get off the line, and this one definitely isn't. As you saw there, it also handled very comfortably at higher speed, so we were doing 70 at a 70 road, and the car was super comfortable. It felt really nice to drive, and it generally feels really nice to drive at those kinds of speeds. So sometimes when you get cars like this, they can feel quite tin canny when you get to those situations. This one certainly doesn't feel like that. From a driver's perspective, I'd say the clutch is maybe a little bit too short. The clutch is really, really little on this. It doesn't give you any room. In terms of handling, as we come around this corner, like, it sticks, but there's a lot of body roll. Like, most of the car is over there at this point in time. I'm just happen to be here thanks to my slightly bolstered seats. Also, one thing I've noticed about the seats, they're quite wide. It's like they're almost preparing for people to be a little bit larger, and that's quite nice, because sometimes you get into cars and the seats are quite compact, and someone who's a little bit on the wider side won't necessarily fit into the seats as well. So yes, as you can see, quick off the line, quick enough off the line, and the handling, again, not too awful. It revs out quite nicely as well, considering it's such a little engine. And it gets up to 70 nice and quickly too. I mean, yeah, this, in terms of speed for a first car, they've absolutely nailed it with this one. This is genuinely perfect on speed, I would say. You don't need any more than this for a first car, and you probably don't want any less than this. One thing I have found annoying though is sometimes when I turn the steering wheel, the indicators don't automatically switch themselves off. It did on that occasion, but sometimes I find that it doesn't switch off automatically, which you don't always clock. One thing I'd say as well is the car feels like you're quite high up. Like, I feel very high up in the car, and I know that that's relative to cars that I've been driving recently, like my MX-5, etc. But even relative to my Polo, I feel very high in the car, and that's quite a good thing, I would say. Being this high up means that I feel a little bit more confident on the road. I feel like I'm higher than this Yaris right here in front of me, and the car generally feels bigger. I don't know if that makes any sense, but the car feels like it's bigger around me than it probably actually is, and that makes it feel quite safe. So yeah, again, for first drivers, pretty good. The gearbox is nice and smooth on this car too. It switches between gears very nicely. You can also use the lower revs, which is also a benefit. Sometimes in first cars, like particularly my Polo, for example, it does not like the lower revs at all. It doesn't like the high revs either. Somewhere in the middle, it's happy. This car, you seem to be able to use the low, medium, and high revs, which is also a benefit. And as we cruise along this lovely country lane, I'm imagining the freedom that one has when they finally get their first car. And I feel like this is a perfect car to do it in. Again, the one problem I have is a lack of auxiliary cable. You can probably somehow fit a new set into there. It looks like it's quite well ingrained into the car, but there's probably a way of changing it out for like a 2-din or something. And there's a few other weird features as well. Trying not to say quirks so I don't get harassed for being Doug DeMuro, but the actual fuel filler cap release is below the seat, so I don't know why, but it's literally down here to the right hand side. And yeah, that seems to be a theme on all the Japanese cars that I've driven. They have very strangely placed fuel filler cap releases. As I come into these speed bumps here, I can show you that the ride is very comfortable. If I just take them nice and slow, just deals with the bumps like it's nothing. It's no big deal. It's not one of those kind of jarring rides that you sometimes get in some of these slightly older cars. Like, it is 13 years old, but yeah, that's all good there, no big deal. In my books, to be fair, this is a positively new car based on all the cars that I've owned. But yes, as I said earlier on in the video, is it really worth the extra sort of 300, 400 pounds you might be paying over like a Polo, etc.? Probably, actually. I think I've actually quite liked this as a little car to drive around, and I think that if you had one of these as a first car, you wouldn't have any problems with it. Maybe if you've got the 5-door as well, so you had a little bit more space or freedom to get your mates into the car and whatever. It has a few mods you can do to it, not that many on the 1.3, but you can always be aspirational and think about what you can get off of the Suzuki Swift Sport. And yeah, I just think that it's generally a little bit more comfortable, maybe a little bit more grown up, shall we say, a bit more grown up than a Corsa or a Fiesta. So yeah, if you've got to spend an extra couple of £100 to get the car, that's not the end of the world. And also, as I've shown in previous videos, insurance prices really aren't too bad on these. Like, I found very, very cheap quotes on these, and I actually advised my good friend whose car this is to buy a Suzuki Swift, and he bought one, and here it is, and it's doing a really great job. The engine feels strong, everything feels very solid. And yeah, they're not awful for reliability, so on balance, this is actually a very decent first car, I would say. And as I also said in my Skoda Fabia video, I don't know why you would spend 15 grand to get one of those when you can get one of these for 1.5k. A tenth of the cost to get most of the same idea, and it's slightly quicker, and it's just as comfortable, and it does all the same basic things. I don't know why you spend the extra cash, basically. Anyway, let's not labour the point, let's end the video there. A massive thank you first of all to my friend for letting me use his car for this video. Also to the patrons for all of their continued support, I really appreciate it. For you guys for watching, I hope you guys learned something. If you're planning on buying a Swift, let me know in the comments down below. But as always, remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that great stuff, and thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.
Listen.